So can I ask you, what is travel photography? I mean, look, we all take pictures when we go wherever, but is there something specific in travel photography that's different from just me snapping a picture of the Spanish Steps?
It's not just taking pictures of monuments and plates of food, but telling a story.
Yeah.
Even as a financial advisor, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, was the financial crisis.
Yeah, it wasn't quite the best thing that ever happened to me, being in real estate, but
So my first international trip with a group was to the Central European Christmas markets.
I mean, that's awesome.
And, I say it only took me 45 years to figure out what I wanted to do with my life.
Hi, everybody, this is Dan and Dante. Welcome to another episode of Middle-Aged Mess, the show for people who went an entire childhood without having a play date. So today we're talking travel, we're talking international experiences and mystery. We're talking Ralph Velasco today. Ralph, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for taking the time. So Ralph, you are, before we get into what you are, because you are a travel photographer primarily, right?
That's right.
So look, everybody loves to travel. You ask anybody what they want to do with their life, they want to travel, they want to travel. Let's talk a little about where you grew up, how you became a travel photographer, because I think you have pretty much the ideal job. You have the job that every single person wants. So let's talk about the development of how you got there.
So I've been a traveler since high school. When I was 15 and I studied for a summer in Spain. The next summer I was a volunteer in
Wait,
Peru.
hold on. Let's slow down. When you're 15 years old, you went to Spain for an entire summer to study. That's not like a typical thing.
No, very, very fortunate to be able to do that. And I was over there with my high school studying Spanish. Definitely a transformative thing for me. So I fell in love with Europe and Spain specifically on that trip. So.
Well, was that something you wanted to do? Did your parents force you to do that? I mean, that's not a standard summer school activity.
I asked my parents to be able to do it because one of my neighbors had done it the year before. And it was something that I've always been interested in travel and had done some travel with the family up until that point. But when I heard about being able to travel to Spain on my own with my high school and other people my age, I was all in.
So you had that early wanderlust, very early.
That's right.
That's awesome. Okay, and then next year you went where?
Next year I volunteered in Peru.
Oh, shit.
The next year I was a volunteer in Venezuela.
Wow.
And the following summer I studied in Mexico City for a summer, Spanish as well. That was between high school and college.
Ralph, you don't fuck around, do you? I mean, you're serious.
I've been pretty serious from day one that I wanted to figure out a way to make a living from travel and photography. But as you can imagine, at our age, that was a long time ago. And we're talking before the internet, before Wi-Fi and, cell phones, and practically before the wheel.
I remember when they had real paper maps, God forbid.
Yeah.
So was that the idea? You wanted to be a travel photographer from very early, and that's kind of what gave you the bug?
I always had dreamed about it, but that back then, 45 years ago, before all this stuff that I just mentioned, it was about as likely as my becoming an astronaut or a rock star. It wasn't something that you did. Now, almost anyone can do it because of all these things that we have in our favor, such as social media, internet, computers in our pockets. Back then I was sending away for brochures and travel information, snail mail from New Zealand.
And you know what's like so amazing to me about the whole, information revolution? Our entire lives when we grew up was around 20 blocks. You need 4 blocks that way, maybe 5 blocks that way, and that was your entire life.
Yeah.
And this concept that there was this whole other world open us. I mean, we didn't even realize it. We had no idea, I think, when we were younger.
That's true. That's true. It's fascinating.
So when did you get to start actually doing it professionally? Like, what happened?
So I did a lot of other things. I say it only took me 45 years to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Most people never do.
Look,
so
I still haven't figured it out. So you're a couple years ahead of me.
With the digital photography revolution and internet and all these things that I had already mentioned, that was something that I saw that, maybe people would teach me, maybe people would be interested in my teaching them how to use those new digital devices.
Right.
These smartphones, these cameras, digital cameras. And so back in 2004, 5, I was creating some small walking tours, just a couple hours where I'd go out with someone one on one and teach them how to use their new digital cameras and get some nice shots. And that's
Where were
when
you
I
doing that?
moved out. Where was I doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in Chicago. And I realized that the season probably wasn't, year round being in Chicago. So I looked to move back to Southern California where I had lived before. I became a financial advisor
Okay.
and to have a job. In the meantime, at night and on weekends, I was teaching travel photography at the local city of Newport Beach and City of Orange and Santa Ana College, et cetera, trying to build a following.
So can I ask you, what is travel photography? I mean, look, we all take pictures when we go wherever, but is there something specific in travel photography that's different from just me snapping a picture of the Spanish Steps?
Well, yeah, hopefully it's more than just snapping pictures of icons, but that's a part of it. So I say that I'm a travel photographer, which means that you should be a jack of all genres, a master of some. So there's a lot of different types of photography: architecture, people, nighttime photography, that kind of thing. So there's all these different types of photography. Travel photographer has to be pretty good at a lot of them, because what we want to do is tell the story of the place.
Right.
It's not just taking pictures of monuments and plates of food, but telling a story.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
so that's what I was teaching back then, what I still teach today. I actually created one of the early iPhone apps back in 2010. So I had an iPhone app out that was based on this idea of creating a shot list and coming home with a well-rounded set of images that tells a story.
So you're rolling in money now after your app.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Are you still doing financial advising, or are you full-time travel photography now?
No, so what happened is in the September of 2008, we all know what happened with the financial crisis.
Yes, yes.
And the
Unfortunately.
day after that was the day that I went full time
Right.
into doing what I do now. So that was, even as a financial advisor, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, was the financial crisis.
Yeah, it wasn't quite the best thing that ever happened to me, being in real estate, but Okay, so
Yeah.
what does that mean? You went into full time. Does that mean you started traveling all around the world? Were you giving classes, seminars? What'd you do?
As I mentioned earlier, I had been traveling quite a bit since I was young and in high school. But this was a way for me to get paid to travel. So this
Yes.
was sort of that, 45 years had gone by, all these, this perfect storm of the internet, cell phones, and photography came together. And now I could advertise for free. There's social media. You
Right.
get more, there's podcasting, places to get exposed. And so that's when I created these one-on-ones, teaching at the local adult education programs, which is a really good way to test your ideas. If
Yeah.
anyone's looking to start a business and you want to test your idea or get some experience teaching without having to get a teaching degree, look for the local city classes that you see, the adult education classes in your
Right.
area.
Right. So how much of your time was doing like taking pictures and getting paid for them?
Great question. Not much. I was doing it part-time, but and I was and still am willing to get in front of anyone that's interested in travel or photography, because I love to talk about it. I love to teach it. And it gives good exposure for my trips. I started just doing local tours, the 2 hours, then it turned into like a half day. Maybe I would do a San Diego by train from
Yeah.
Irvine down to San Diego. Then I would do weekend trips to Joshua Tree or to up to Death Valley. And then I started bringing groups for a 4-day weekend back home to Chicago.
Yeah, right on.
So this was a free way for me to get a trip back to Chicago. And then
Sounds
eventually I got approached by a large tour company asking if I wanted to bring a small group onto one of their trips. And so we did that. And so my first international trip with a group was to the Central European Christmas markets.
I mean, that's awesome.
And yeah, and I kind of never looked back from then on. And so now all my trips are international. Once in a while I'll do a Chicago trip, just because I'm here in between trips.
And this just comes from standard internet advertising or social media. I assume you have something on Viator or one of those types of sites, right?
Not on Viator, because those are mostly like day trips. I do all multi-day multi-week trips now. So they're anywhere from 7 to 14 days to Vietnam, Antarctica, Cuba, Cambodia, India, all
Oh,
over
shit.
Europe.
And how does,
So
so wait, explain the way this works to me. So now you get paid obviously for doing the trip, all your expenses are paid. And then are you just getting money from the people who are doing it, or there's magazines? Are you selling the pictures? Like, what's the story behind it all?
yeah, no, as far as the travel photography goes, I've sold some book covers and magazine covers and stuff, but it was never about doing stock photography and selling the individual photos. I've framed some photographs and sold them. That's a whole other job, and I've already got 2 or 3 of those. Mostly the way I make money is from organizing and leading the tours. So I
Got it.
put everything together from soup to nuts. I'm on every trip leading these trips, so the owner of the company is there. I'm teaching photography to people that are interested in that. Although it's as much about the food and the drink and spirits and wine tasting and culture, history, with local guides that provide that.
So you're like a tour operator, Ralph.
Yeah, I call myself a tour organizer,
Right.
and it's tomato, tomato.
I
So
mean, that's a pretty cool way to get free international travel. I got to tell you.
it is, and people think that I'm on vacation all the time.
I mean, you
'Cause
kind of are, Ralph. Let's be honest.
well, I'm on their vacation.
Right,
I'm,
right,
I'm
right.
not on my vacation,
Right, no, I
but
understand.
no one's going to feel sorry for me. And I've got a pretty cool office, which is the world.
Yeah.
And when I had my second restaurant back in 2001 to 2004 or five, I had to decide, was I going to sign on for another 5-year lease, or was I going to sell the business? And so I literally took a yellow pad and I said, what do I hate about the restaurant business?
Everything?
I've got it.
Everything?
Yeah, pretty much everything.
Yeah, yeah.
$5,000 a month rent. I've got employees.
Yeah, I watched The Bear. I know how horrible it is.
Yeah, another Chicago restaurant. And so it's that tough. And I grew up in that business. So I said I want to do the opposite of that. I want to work wherever my computer is. I don't want employees. I want to take a shower before work and not after work. So it was all these things. And so being able to do my business from anywhere that my computer is just fantastic.
No, that's awesome. So when you're on these, let's talk about some of the stories. Got some good stories from some of the trips where some weird shit happened?
I haven't had too many weird people on my trips. I've had a few, but I've done over 120 international trips with probably 1,200 people, different clients, a lot of repeats as well. And maybe 10 of those have fallen off my list mysteriously.
Of the 120 trips, so where do you go? I mean, you're in the Far East, you're in Europe, are you all over the world, I'd imagine. Do you know how many cities you've been in all of those trips?
I don't know how many cities, but 7 continents, and I've done. I have probably 30 itineraries that might have multiple countries within each itinerary. So it just depends.
Billy, we got to get in the tour organizing business. The fuck are we doing podcasts? I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, who's your typical traveler? What's your sweet spot for people?
Yeah, typically age 40 plus. So people that are a little bit more established are looking for trips that are a little bit more off the beaten path, because my people that come on my trips tend to be very well traveled. So they've done the typical Rome, Florence, Venice trip.
Right,
Now they're
right.
looking to get off the beaten path and do some really cool, stays at private castles or wine estates or agriturismos. Something I learned early on is that, when we go to these places, we can't wait to get out of the hotel.
Right.
Like I'm not staying at the hotel. I'm on vacation. Well, what if the hotel is an 11th century castle in the south of France, or a wine estate with a swimming pool and unbelievable views, and just beautiful properties that have hiking grounds and gardens and things like that? You may not want to leave all the time.
Yeah, totally.
So I wanted the accommodations to be a destination as well.
Yeah.
And of course we do leave the hotel, but when you're at the hotel, you don't feel guilty.
Well, I guess the vacation's still focused around the photography, right? I mean, you're like you said, you're having them build a story out of all the things that you guys are seeing.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. So photography is a part of it and always has been a part of the tours. but it's also the food and the culture, people. I love to meet local artisans and see how they work and what they're doing. And so those are the kinds of things, olive oil tasting,
Oh, love it.
caviar tasting,
Yeah.
things like that.
Shit, Ralph, I might be calling you after this. I mean, we might be going on a trip
Let's
together,
go.
you and I.
Let's go.
How do you develop an itinerary? Like, how do you find the 11th century castles? How do you figure all these things out?
Yeah, they come to me a lot of different ways, or I go looking for them. That one happened to come to me from an email. So I got an email from a gentleman named Miles Copeland, and he says, "Hey, I own a private castle in the south of France. Starting to bring some groups here.
Is
I
Miles
see that you do
Copeland the
tour."
brother of the drummer for the Police?
Yep,
Okay.
that's the same
Okay.
guy.
Why,
Yep,
why are you just
Stuart.
trying to like throw that by me? Come on,
Well,
Ralph.
I
Come
was
on, give
gonna
me some of
bring
the
it up
dirt
in just a
behind these
second.
people. Okay, got it.
Yep, yep. So I was the same way. So I said, this can't be the Miles Copeland I've heard of,
Right.
and
Right.
for those who don't know, he's Stuart Copeland's brother, the drummer for the Police and
Right.
founder of the Police, and the person who they say discovered Sting.
Right. Right.
And Miles also managed the band and Sting during their heydays.
Right.
So he sold his company, IRS Records, in England and bought this castle about 35 years ago.
Oh wow.
And so he invited me out of the blue and said, come on out. I'll, put a scouting trip together for you, and we'd love for you to start bringing some groups here.
I mean,
So
that's
I'm
amazing.
heading there in September, and he's with us the whole time. He drives us around. He loves to tell all the old stories. So it's a really fun trip.
Yeah, Ralph, I need your email. I mean, I might be going on that trip with you, man. I'm telling you, that
Let's
sounds
go.
amazing.
Let's go. I got some spots.
So, so how do you develop your next? How do you decide where you're going next month or next year? How does it work?
Yes, I typically work on a trip at least a year in advance. So I go to the place. I start about 18 months. I start looking for a tour operator in the destination, someone to work with
Right.
that knows the location, has all the contacts and everything. And then about 12 months out, I will go to the place at the time of the year that I want to bring the group back. Maybe it's the spring flowers or it's the fall harvest or something specific about the Christmas markets, the season. So I'll go there because I want to get the pictures and the experiences and meet the people that I'll bring the group back to a year later. And so then after that, it takes me about a month or two to put the itinerary and all the details together, pricing, and then it gives me about 10 months to sell the trip. When I get a good trip going, I'll run it over and over again. Like I've done Cuba now 19 times.
Oh wow.
And in some trips I'll do
awesome.
over and over again. And then when when I feel like I've gone through my list, people have been there, done that, or I've been there 7 or 8 times and I'm done with it, I'll look for a new location.
So do you kind of get the same people over and over again, or you're always getting new travelers?
I get about 50% of my clients repeat over and over again. So I've got clients been on 25 trips,
Oh
20
my God.
a lot
Wow.
of 15s and 8s, 9s, 10s. So a lot of repeats. So find myself wanting to create new trips for these clients, but it's very expensive and time consuming to do that. So I'm also beginning to look for new clients and expand my mailing lists to appeal to other people as
Ralph,
well.
you're apparently throwing a hell of a party, man. I got to tell you.
I get so much repeat rates and referrals, and people are just so great on my trips. I get the best clients and travelers.
That's awesome. Now, are they experienced photographers? I mean, I guess after 25 travel trips, it might be pretty good. But is it people with the $4,000 cameras, or is it just people, with their iPhones?
Now it's more and more people with their smartphones. I do get some serious photographers, but I don't want my trips to come off as photo workshops, which those are, to me, that's 12 hours a day, every sunrise, sunset, imagery views. It's too hardcore for me to do that 10 or 12 times a year with groups.
I don't think it would be that fun either. I mean, I think I'd love the concept of taking pictures, but if we're working on it and dealing with the openings and the settings all day, I'd be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I just want a burrito.
I agree, and it gets old for me because I'm the one that has to do it 10 times a year with 10 different groups. You as a traveler might do it once,
Right.
and not get so sick about it. But these trips attract a different type of traveler. So it's someone that maybe enjoys photography but doesn't have to. You've never had to bring a camera on my trips.
Right.
That wasn't required. But who doesn't want to be in a beautiful place and beautiful lights before the tourist crowds, when it's just the locals out? So whether you've got a camera or not.
Yeah, no, it sounds awesome to me. I mean, let's do a little marketing. How much does a trip of yours cost?
Depends on the trip, of course, because they vary in length from 7 to 14 days typically. Nowadays, anywhere from 4,000 to even upwards of 15,000 for an Antarctica trip.
Oh, wow.
But we fly down to the continent. We don't take the ship over 2.5 days each way.
Oh, shit, I didn't even know if you could fly into Antarctica.
Yeah,
I thought it was just
yeah,
the ship
it's
from like Patagonia or something.
fantastic.
That's awesome. How many people
Yeah.
are on a typical tour?
Anywhere from 6 to 10 are on a typical tour. So it's enough for me to manage, but it's small enough for me to get good pricing because we've got 6 to 10 people. So people benefit from lower prices. They get that camaraderie, safety in numbers. I get a lot of single travelers, mostly women. They may or may not be single
When they're
marital
done?
wise, but
When they're done,
but
they're not single?
yeah, no, maybe their spouse maybe doesn't want to travel or can't travel for whatever reason, but they want to travel, but they want to be with people.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of those types of people on my trips, which works out really well.
That's awesome. So craziest story. Somebody falling off a cliff, a gorilla attacking you in the Congo. Give me something good.
You know, the worst thing that's happened over 16 years of doing this is I've had 2 people break ankles on 2 different trips. Yeah, not that big a deal. So I consider myself extremely lucky. But
I mean,
think
compared
it
to
has,
compared to the gorilla attack or the falling off the cliff, that's just not really much, you know?
well, I didn't tell you how they broke their ankle.
Okay,
but,
here we go.
yeah,
I
it was
cut
from
you
a
off.
Shark attack. No, no, they, yeah, it was just both times slipped on some gravel of all things, right?
Okay.
So not a very great story. But I think when you kind of put your guard down a little bit, and that's when you sort of think that those kinds of things sort of happen. But not that big a deal.
Yeah, well, you know what? It sounds like when before I talked to you, I kind of had a sense that your trips are much more adventurous or adventuresome, and you're really going out in the wilds. But it sounds like they're kind of luxurious and really super nice. It seems like it's more like the trip than the photography is kind of the priority, huh?
We do some things where, like, there's zip lining. You might go, there might be an opportunity to go hot air ballooning in Turkey or
Yeah.
Spain. We do a lot of olive oil and wine tastings, caviar tastings. I make food a big part of our trips. No one ever goes hungry on my trips.
Yeah.
And I love to do cooking demonstrations and cooking foodie tours and market walks. So I make food a really big part of the trips.
Yeah, it sounds
And
awesome.
people tend to love that, and it makes great for photography.
Yeah,
And we're eating 3 meals a day, so it works out really well.
I love it. Tell me about your books, Ralph.
Yes, I've got 2 new books out. One is called 60 Affirmations for Travel, and the second one is a gratitudes edition. And they're meant I wrote them because I, as a traveler, needed them. And what they are is part of a series called the Mindful and Intentional Traveler series. And quick story, back when I was 16 and on that trip in Peru, I was with 9 other students, boys from my high school, and we were complaining a little bit about, I miss my mother's cooking, or I miss my bed, or my friends and family back home.
Yep.
And, typical. One of the teachers said, he goes, be here now. Take advantage of this incredible opportunity that you have as a 16-year-old boy to go to this place and learn about this other culture and appreciate the differences, not try to figure out why they are different and how you can make them the same. That's why I travel, is to go to places that are different, not the same.
Yeah, and that message is even more important than ever, with kids who are just lost on their phones all day, every day. I mean, I was lucky enough to get to take my kids to some pretty outrageous places over the last 10 years, Africa and Costa Rica and all over, and still they want to sit there on their phones. Like, you're so desperate as an adult, as an older person, to say, look around, enjoy where you're at, appreciate this whole amazing world that you're in, and they're just, on the phone. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, oh, you absolutely hit it the nail on the head. And these devices were made to take us away.
Yeah.
They were made for us, for us to look at them and to be in another part of the world. But when you are in another part of the world and all you're doing is sitting there looking at your phone,
Yeah.
it seems like a real waste.
That's sad.
And so it's about being here now, appreciating the here and now, being more mindful and intentional. And the older we get, the more I think that we can think about those kinds of things.
I like it.
Appreciating.
Give me the two titles again and where people can find it.
Yeah, so one is 60 Affirmations for Travel, and these are both on Amazon. And this is a gratitudes edition. So there are 60 gratitudes, there's prompts, there's pages for journaling, there's adult coloring pages, puzzles, things like that. So I imagine people using this book on a long airplane flight.
Yeah, when you're on the train, yeah, or something.
Yep, to sort of bring you back to center, and also give you ideas for new places that you might want to go, but bringing you back to present.
Ralph, I kind of expected your books to be books of pictures that you've taken on your trips, but it seems like we don't care about that. We're more interested in the food.
That's my other books, like the travel journal.
There we go. There we go. I knew there was some other ones. In it.
Yeah,
okay,
I've got
cool.
a lot of photography books as well.
Okay, love it. Where can people find you, Ralph?
Yeah, so people can find me at continentaldrifter.co. I've also got a YouTube channel, youtube.com/continentaldrifter. Got a blog. You can see all my experiences on the website. Reach out to me, Ralph at continentaldrifter.co, if anyone has any questions.
What's the next trip that people can sign up for?
That would be the France trip to Miles's Castle in the Dordogne region of France. And that's September 19th through 26th. Still got a couple spaces available on that trip. And I've got a special where it's $800 off, so you can get a single room without paying the single supplement.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you save $800.
Well, Ralph, you're fucking cool, man. I mean, I thought we were going to talk about pictures, but you got all these great events and all these great adventures and these trips. I mean, it really sounds like a great time. I mean, I'm serious. I want your email address. I may be signing up for some of them.
Please come on out.
That's
Come
awesome.
on out.
All right, cool. Well, Ralph, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed hearing about you, and we may be talking again soon. So look for my email. So everybody, it's continentaldrifter.co, correct?
That's right.
Check out Ralph, check out his trips, like and subscribe at middleagedmess.com. Give Ralph a call, go traveling, take a picture, be mindful, appreciate where you are in the world. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.